Chill back when someone else does that. Look like I heard the music. What is it?
Tick. We're a little off on our timing. They told me to get before. I can't like squat that low.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. What is it?
Washing machine.
Catapult, yeah. That's pretty good.
Very valuable prize packages here. Retail value is in the thousands.
Why are there no prizes? There's supposed to be one prize for the winner.
We have a bumper sticker,
Heck yeah.
a Flappy calculator, and a keychain from JCJC. And the cup. So,
Who was sponsored by?
which machine do you think?
I'm gonna have to go with the washing machine.
I understand what Anyway, has everybody paid their membership dues? If you have not paid your membership dues, we need to get this in today. You're not officially a member of PBL until you do that, Caden. Okay, good. And that's gonna happen ASAP. What's next? Thanks. Anybody else that wants to be an officer for the PBL this year, just turn in their candidacy applications. Is anybody gonna do that today? Right on. Anybody else? We got two? All right, y'all two will probably get later.
Basically, I'm gonna look over applications, and if I can't find anybody better, then probably I'm gonna get it.
Much like the presidential candidacy this year, apparently corruption is where we need to be at in order to get elected, right? Newsletter, yeah. Everybody's on the email list, so look out for the newsletter that Mr. Rue puts together. You put it together? Yeah. I mean, it's got interesting information about the stuff that PBL is doing in the neighborhood. Did you put, when we all went to take the fiber optic cabling class, did you put that in our newsletter? You did not put that in. That was in JCJC times, right? Okay. Okay, the Columbus trip. Number one, the day, everybody knows that, we'll be taking a bus, yes. Mr. Ray does not want you to drive your own car. That's fine, though, we're look. The bottom line without looking at this, the trips are going to be enjoyable. Mr. Ray and Mr. DuBose are not Nazi babysitters that are going to watch our every move. Mr. Ray is going to make a schedule that is going to be accurate and have a time in there to make sure that we get to everything as we're supposed to. And if we can get in the lobby on time, Mr. Ray and Mr. DuBose are not going to give us a hard time than anything else. If we can not get the police call on us, have the hotel staff complaining about us, and make it to the lobby on time so we can get to our events, That is all they ask. They're gonna stay in their room and leave us alone, and it's gonna be fun, okay? I mean, I had way more fun than I deserved to have at my age, going to an event like this. The bus, hotel rooms, paid for by PBL. JC is happy to have us going to do this. They're proud of us doing this. It brings notoriety to the school. It's very important to the school to have us out here doing this. That's why they help us and pay for this stuff. There's gonna be another thing about the LA trip later on, right? Okay, I don't have to talk about that yet. All right. Yep. It's very inexpensive. Yes, ma'am. Go
We
ahead.
raise our hands in this.
You do whatever you need to.
Okay, is this on the newsletter? Is this in any of our stuff, or can I take a picture of this?
I would recommend
Yes,
taking a picture of
yes.
it, but in case none of you have Mr. Ray as a teacher, or have before, or have ever dealt with him, he is hyper organized.
Yeah.
He will make sure that we're done. Yes, it's gonna be a very inexpensive trip. Breakfast is paid for at the hotel. It's one of the continental breakfasts. We don't have to worry about that. I ate twice a day. I paid for one meal and the rest of the day, and then, you know, and we have one dinner paid for. So on a 3-day trip, you're really not gonna have to spend a lot of money to live. Bring your stuff, pay your $50, maybe a little, I mean, I didn't need money to go on a trip. And so that was number 4, and number 4 again. Good deal. There are a plethora of different competitions you can enter into on the PBL trip. Mr. Ray talked about in one of our other meetings, I don't know if any of you attended that meeting or not, but apparently in Mississippi, this is a relatively new thing, or it's not, I don't want to say it's not popular, but there's so many events that we can compete in Mississippi, and not as many students to fill up those events. It is, you can literally join, I mean, there's a strong possibility you can join, like enter a competition and be the only one or one of only 2 people in the event, and you, by proxy, you won and got your trip to LA. Just like that. You showed up. It could have been the worst performance ever, you're still going on the trip. I mean, this is a reality. Mr. Ray is making a list of all the competitions from last year, of the ones that were not popular, not many people joined and competed in, and I'm literally going to pick one of mine from that list to make sure, like, not to make sure, you're not going to be sure, but to help make it a city. It's really, did you switch the thing? There are test study guides available. The next club meeting will be November 16th. That's in 2 weeks. That's when he's going to break down the competitive classes that I was just talking about. And yes, especially like last year, I did impromptu speaking job interview. You can't prepare for a job interview other than being. I guess she's going to tell us how to prepare for a job interview.
Yes, she is.
I didn't prepare for my job interview other than being well rested and well fed and in a good mood. And my other one was impromptu speaking. I didn't prepare for that either. Those were a lot of fun for me. Show up, do it, and nobody entered those either because they're like big public speaking events. Apparently people share those. But there are going to be a lot of them that you need to prepare for, and more preparation. And the sooner you start the preparation, y'all are all adults, right? You know how to take care of that. This is a picture of people from Mississippi at Anaheim.
Which is where we're going,
Right.
back to California.
I've never been to the West Coast. I'm very excited about trying to go there. Is there anything else I need to mention about this picture?
All right, so I'm gonna get our guest speaker up here. One of the main things that I like to concentrate on in PBL is soft skills. All those little things you learn, the stuff you need from class to do your job, but that's not all you need on the job. You gotta know how to be professional. You gotta know how to dress. You gotta know how to actually interview for a job. All these different things like that. And so I asked a friend of mine if there was somebody in mind that she would think would do a good job, and she immediately said Miss Lori. And so I emailed her, and what I like about Miss Lori is that she immediately emailed back and said, "Just tell me when and where." Okay, so I love that about people that do that for us. And so she works with State Farm and I know she is an LSU graduate. Don't hold that against her, but
Very tired.
and so but I'm gonna let her come on up and kind of give her own little bio, because I actually just stole it off the website, so there's probably more to it than what was on the little website. But let's all give her a big hand and welcome her.
Thank y'all for inviting me to be here today with you. I'll start out, like Mr. Ray said, just telling you a little bit about myself, my background, just to kind of give you some perspective on, why does she know anything about interviewing? But I'm from Louisiana. I went to LSU. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering, and minor in structural, and worked in engineering for about 7 years. I have a professional license in geotechnical engineering. Worked for a large international company called URS for about 4 years, and then I worked for a smaller consulting firm called Geoengineers for about 3 years. At that point, I decided, despite all the hard work and doing really well professionally, it just wasn't where I could see myself forever. So I kind of got to that turning point where I felt, honestly, just like shit or get off the pot. Get happy with it or do something else. Give something else a chance. So I did grow up. My dad worked for State Farm for 32 years and knew how good of an opportunity it is to own your own business, be in control of where you want to be in life financially, time-wise, and things like that. And I went to him and talked to him about starting with State Farm. He recommended, and I said, I want to go work for somebody first and work for an agent. I don't want to make the same mistake twice and get myself into something that I don't feel like I can get out of. Went and worked for an agent and really enjoyed it, and from there decided to become a State Farm agent. So went through that interview process. I've been an agent for almost 6 years, and I've been with State Farm about 7.5 years. So that kind of is where I am today. I'm not moved the laurel for the job, and loved it ever since. So, welcome. So, David asked me to talk about interview skills, and, obviously, you gotta be yourself, you wanna, get the job. But I do think there are things that you can do to help differentiate yourself and help you get your foot in the door. Doing some small things, and I know that by having just interviewed a ton of people, looked at a ton of resumes. I can tell you it is probably one of the hardest parts of my job as a business owner is finding good people. So you hear a lot, about people graduating. I feel like it's hard to get a job. And I think it is. I think it's really super competitive right now, but jobs are out there. So one of my theories is always, you gotta have a job to get a better job. And, your first job or your fifth job may not be your dream job, but maybe your 7th or your 10th on average. Most people by the time they're 40 are gonna have, have gone through 8 to 10 jobs. And what I found for myself was that actually one of the best ways to figure out what I wanted to do was by doing a lot of things that I didn't want to do. So going through and saying, nope, I don't want to do that. Nope, I don't want to do that. And it, I always say, it's work. So, if it was fun all the time, they would call it fun, or the weekend. But, so what you have to do, I think, is try to find a balance and something that you can enjoy getting up and doing every day and be able to provide the things that you want for your family. So really to get in, so the first, I just kind of have it broken down into looking for a job, resume, submission, interview prep, attire, during the interview, and then follow up. So if y'all have any questions, just stop, interrupt me, please. I'd rather this be more interactive and be able to touch on topics that really mean the most to y'all than me I can talk forever. But so the first topic is looking for the job. So, obviously, just to go through different ways to find jobs that are out there. Internet, The internet can make it easier and harder. Yeah, it's really easy to hop on, Indeed or whatever site you're looking for and, see that there's these jobs out there, but everybody's doing that. So, from an employer standpoint, think about, if I put a job posting out there, I try to be, even being real specific, I will get, like 10, 20 resumes a day. You just get inundated with all these resumes. So, we can talk further, just about trying to differentiate yourself with your resume and maybe having to do something other than just, if you're really looking for a job and want to ask for a job, it's going to have to be more than probably just submitting a resume. And then you're leaving it kind of to luck, whether someone, like an employer on a good day, went and happened to look at that one resume and decided to offer an interview. I think school and civic organizations is going to be a great way, networking. It's going to be, relationships, whether it's a family friend, a neighbor, someone at school. You need to be, if you think, there's a certain direction you're wanting to go professionally, you need to be putting yourself in the presence of those people. Because if I get a recommendation or an email or any sort of red flag on a resume that would put a personal connection to an applicant, then I'm going to at least usually invite them in for an interview, okay? So that was personal and family. Calling, if there's certain, a certain industry or a certain company, pick up the phone. That used to be how people got jobs, but now it's actually rare. Pick up, call, or say, I'd like to set up a time. Who handles, your HR, your hiring? I like to come by and drop my resume or something like that to introduce myself. So that's going to be a way too. And then job fairs, a lot of myself, colleagues go out and do work job fairs. So when you are at your job fair, here at school, or if you go, down to Southern or Mississippi State or wherever, I don't even know if you have to be a student to go to those job fairs, if you could visit another school, but here, take it seriously, because these employers are out there, not just to give away, free junk from their company, which, we all do, but to actually try to find those candidates, because like I said, otherwise we're sitting there on the computer reading these resumes. And that's not a person. What you can read their resume, you can search for them on Facebook, see, or Instagram or whatever, see if you can't figure out who this person is, if you know anybody. But you really can utilize a job fair to get, go shake hands with somebody that may have, a position to offer you a job. Any questions or comments about looking? Or is there anything out there? How are y'all finding jobs, or you think you're gonna find a job when you graduate?
When you say you have to have a job to get a job, that is kind of a big deal too, isn't it? Because an employer that's looking for somebody that hasn't been employed for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say too. Most time that you have to have, it says 2-3 years experience in the field and all that stuff. So that is, to me, when I'm looking at postings and stuff, that's the hardest thing to look for. And I don't, hardest thing on there is what I'm seeing. So.
Yeah. And I would say if there's something you really want to go after and it says 2 to 3 years and you don't have it,
Still apply
still
anyway.
apply. I'll put things like that just to kind of try to weed out people, but I'm always looking for a good candidate, someone with a good personality and the work ethic and the drive to do the job. So, you may have to submit and then, follow up. I'd love the chance, to talk to you. I saw this, job you have posted. It might be helpful. And, as far as, seeing, blanks. Now, obviously, if it's your first job coming out, that's probably going to be the hardest job to get. From there, every other job is going to be, you're going to start making business connections, and things like that, or hear about, you'll have the time to be patient and say, well, I'm going to wait till the next right thing comes around to make that professional move. But yeah, not, wanting to see gaps on a resume once you're out in that professional world. Unfortunately, because it is so competitive, as an employer, you can say, well, I'm really not going to consider those candidates. So making you the best look the best you possibly can.
To pose what I said to the question, is there anything, like, I left my job at Howard at the beginning of the semester, so that I could focus on doing well in school this last year in school.
Yeah.
And I've just got this tremendous amount of stuff going on with my kids and all their extracurriculars. I volunteer constantly for stuff like that. Are there any good excuses? Like, is that a good excuse, or is that just me being lazy and not wanting to work?
No, I think, and that really helps me lead into the next topic, which is gonna be preparing your resume. I think employers are looking a lot, I know for myself, at those extracurriculars. You know, what are you doing? Who are you? I mean, by you putting, you know, just your chronological, you know, jobs, that doesn't tell me who you are. Some people, you know, a friend of mine that's an agent in Florida, you know, he says, I just like scroll straight to the bottom. That's what he's interested in. What clubs like this were you interested in? What do you do in your community? So, you know, don't just put that junk as fillers at the bottom, you know, because that might be, especially on an entry level job, no one's as much, so they want to see that you completed a degree. I mean, that shows, not necessarily even what it's in, but that you can complete, say you're gonna do something and complete it. And then, you know, what else you're doing out there, especially, I think in the business sales world, that's gonna say, you know, how, you know, extroverted, how outgoing, how involved are you in your community, what kind of connections and networking do you already have in place that you can bring with you, wherever you're going. So, I mean, I definitely don't think, you know, saying you're focusing on your studies, you know, is going to be a negative on your resume.
I guess too, like, all the volunteer work I do, I'm working with people that are out there in the business world right now, doing the volunteer work too, and they're good references too, aren't they?
Right, and I mean, probably those people that you're working with are going to be, you're gonna get the job through your interview, but they're gonna help you get an interview. That's just the way the world works. And it really is. Now, after that first job, then you can, you know, pave your own road, but a lot of times I think, you know, getting in the door is going to be, and then get that job and take it. It's not gonna be your dream job straight out of school, but you gotta work, get that experience, take what you can from it, and then use that to catapult you to what you are wanting to be doing. As far as resume, I mean, you know, 1 page for every 10 years, just basic, like no resume etiquette. I mean, Google it. It's so easy. I don't think there's an excuse. And that may be the engineering side of my brain. I hate when I see a tacky resume or something like that. You know, it's like, you know, the etiquette and what you're supposed to be doing, because you know what that tells me too. I mean, those resources are out there. I don't think there's an excuse for not getting something like that right, but just simple, you know, 1 page for every 10 years. Like I said, make sure to really include extracurricular social activities. Even, you know, I was, you know, if your baseball team won state champion or whatever, captain of this, those things show leadership skills. I was the president of PBL. I was the captain of my football team. But it does. I mean, when I'm trying to decide, okay, I have 100 resumes, and you know, who do I see that, you know, might have leadership qualities, you know, things like that are gonna put a you know, highlight. You know, so keep the resume simple, like within the right manner, like even if you've done 1,000 things, but maybe do a nice cover letter. You know, if you want to add more stuff about yourself, or if it's a job you're really, really interested, where you can express more of, you know, why you're interested, why you think you're going to be a good fit, that sort of thing. Myself, and I know a lot of business owners and big companies using aptitude testing, so don't, you know, sort of dismiss that as, you know, let me just click through that real quick. I know I use Career Plug, which I think posts on a bunch of websites, and it has built-in testing, but there's companies like Can They Sell and Wonderlic and all these different aptitude. And, you know, as well as that may be a resource for yourself if you're not really sure what you want to do. Maybe, you know, taking some of these tests could help you figure out what your strengths are gonna be, but, myself and, you know, I know other colleagues are just looking for certain minimums on these tests, so that's another way to weed out these resumes. So many, I'm gonna, you know, send out these aptitude tests, have people take them, and then I'm only gonna review if you scored a certain, grade or higher on that.
What do you know about the aptitude test and how they're scored? Because I've always heard to be honest and give your honest answer, but, and maybe I'm a terrible person, but, you know, no, seriously, like, some, like one answer, like, it sounds like, would you rat your best friend out to do this thing? And I want to say, probably not, you know, that's the honest answer. But probably, I'm going to feel really bad about it, but I'm not going to. And the right answer is, absolutely, he's toast, you know, I'm throwing him in the bus. And I've heard that you're supposed to give the honest answer as often as possible to get the best score.
That's all right.
Because they don't want to hear, the employers don't want to see all the right answers.
And that may not be what they're looking for.
I don't
Maybe
know.
they're thinking of, well, I mean, you never know. I don't know what
You know what I'm
or
saying?
how they score these things. Consistency in answering, you know, so if you are going, you know, who knows? I think really is the, but now some of them are like math verbal and things like that, looking for a certain, you know, so that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't just rush through and click, like, you know, get to a good place where you have time to focus on answering the questions, because I mean, to me, it'd be a shame if, you know, you said I'm gonna sit on my cell phone, you know, while I'm at the traffic light and do this aptitude test, and then just because you, on a math verbal, and you score bad on it, so no one's even gonna look at your resume. You know what I mean? What if that's what just crosses you off the list? So, as far as the other piece of it, personality, strengths, weaknesses, you know, on one side you're like, you really want the job, but then if it's not a good fit for you, do you really want it? There's both sides of that. I don't know. I'm a little torn on both of them, but I do think that they are fairly sophisticated, so that they're wording so many different ways, and they're trying to get to the heart of who the person is anyway. Despite whether you're trying to guess, but I would say honesty and consistency is going to give you the best score.
Yeah, because I'm gonna ask, because I've noticed I've taken like 4 or 5 of those things over the past ever so many years, and I've noticed that like it'll say, do you think it is okay to show up to work 15 minutes late? And then about 40, 50 questions later, it'll say, do you think being on time is important? And you're like, that's the same question you asked 30 questions back, but I think they want you to answer that one and the other one exactly the same way. You know, a lot of times it's like, you're sitting there going, yeah, this is the answer they want me to say, but I think they want me to say it when I come to the next question that's a little bit worded differently. A consistency thing. And sometimes you're just like,
I have heard you can score better, you know, if it's one of those scales where it's like strongly agree, mildly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, you know, it goes on forever, that it is better to be one way or the other, like being a moderate on something like that, I've heard, can hurt your score, not have you score it quite as high. So I would probably, you know, more so strongly agree, and but you know, I would say, like, I mean, obviously if it's a sales organization, I mean, they're gonna be looking for, you know, work ethic, leadership skills, you know, maybe some more aggressive qualities and things like that. So on those questions where they're, I mean, like you're saying, it's pretty easy to figure out where they're going, but be consistent and.
Well, those strongly agree, strongly disagree, whatever. Yeah, they don't want people with gray area opinions.
Right.
They don't want people to actually think about stuff. They just like, nope, I'm decided.
I guess depending on the type of work.
I guess, right?
It would be depending on the type of work. If you're wanting to go into accounting.
If you're a therapist, they want gray area.
Right, you know, depending on, you know, what that employer's looking for. So strong cover letter aptitude test, quick response on emails. Like if I send somebody an email in response to a resume, if I don't get a response back maybe from for like a day or two, then that's just looking for ways to weed out, you know, resumes. So if you're gonna put that email address on there and you're going to be submitting resumes, you know, check it, or I mean, even respond back, you know, hey, I found employment, thank you. I mean, doing
I
that
feel like
for-
now it's easier than ever because most people have a smartphone and they just get them like almost like text or something to your phone. You get your emails to, you know,
Exactly.
at least I do.
But you know, I mean, everybody has a junk email account, so you're gonna put that on
Yeah,
your,
don't
for
put
your
the junk
resume,
in.
and it gets like clogged up with 37, you know, Pottery Barn coupon emails. Then you know you scroll through them. And then, you know, make yourself available and show interest. I mean, I just don't think you can be too eager from a standpoint of wanting a job. You want a job, I mean, you've got to go out and get it. I mean, you have to be the aggressor. You have to be playing, you know, offense and taking control and pursuing the job if you really want it, okay? Let's see, interview prep. You know something about who you're interviewing with, whether, you know, if say you're coming into a State Farm interview. I mean, I'm not looking for someone that knows everything about insurance. Nobody knows anything about insurance. But, you know, just know maybe a little bit about State Farm. You know, try to impress me a little bit. You know, so I know you know, got online and at least read about it. Or if you have a connection, that's not a direct connection, you know, talk to that person, you know, about, hey, you know, you're friends with Lori, tell me some of the things that she's involved in the community, and you find out, you know, I'm in Rotary and Art Club and, you know, different things like that. You know, it shows that there was just effort. That effort was put out before you came and see me. So, you know, ask around locally about, or what the business does. You know, I know you've been an agent, I see you've been an agent for about, you know, 5 or 6 years. You know, how's your business? Just kind of be in tune with things that may be important to that business or that employer. And then one of my biggest interview prep, as far from a prep scenario, and State Farm has such a rigorous interview process. And so what I always did, and if I can find, I can email it to David. But I had and I've emailed it out to a bunch of other people that are pursuing, trying to become agents. You know, there's like a bunch of canned interview questions. You know, I was like, tell me about a time, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, from an employer standpoint, it's really good to use those questions because it's a good way to compare candidates. So if you're interviewing, you know, 5 or 10 people for a job, if you ask everybody the same sort of questions, then, and you have some canned interview questions, it's good. So we all kind of know what those questions are. Like I said, I can, you know, send out the list. And think of a few life stories that you have that could work in several of those questions, right? You could probably have 3 or 4 stories that could work for about 10 or 15 questions, and they're probably only going to ask you 3 or 4 of those type of questions. You know, tell me about a time you took on a leadership role. Tell me about a time you had to work as a team. Tell me, you know, about one of your weaknesses, or, you know, whatever it may be. And you could have, you know, that story about when you were football captain, or when you worked, you know, under a manager, you know, or whatever it may be, or a time in a volunteer organization. And so you have that, so you're not looking like a deer in headlights when, you know, you're thinking, oh shit, why are they asking me these questions? Everybody hates these questions. But you have some good things that make you look really good. You want to look, I mean, from an employer, I'm like, hey, I will take into account if you're nervous, right? But, you know, like, this might be like the best I'm gonna get from this person as far as the way you look and the most responsive and stuff like that. So, you know, you're trying to sell yourself. So, you know, some people say, I hate sales, whatever. This world is all sales. You're always trying to get what you want. You know, they always say children are the #1 salespeople because they're never willing to accept no for an answer. So that interview is you selling yourself. Should be the easiest topic to talk about. But in an interview scenario, if you're nervous, you know, you might choke. You know, so if you have those in the back of your head, you know, it lets you something to fall, and there's nothing wrong with practicing. You know, go to, you know, a friend or a teacher or whoever, and, you know, say, hey, I have this list of interview questions. Will you, you know, just prep me with a few, and the day before, let you go through your story that you have, and then get some good feedback from them. So it's not maybe the first time you've done it. Any questions on?
How do you feel about tell me about some of your weaknesses, and you answer with, well, I just get too dedicated to work.
I never even have. I mean, I think that's a silly
I'm just saying,
question.
that's like.
But because you always are
that's
gonna
like
like
that
tell them
was-
something good, it's like a good bad thing. So I think it's a silly question anyway. But you never know. You know, I mean, because I've been in on interview panels for candidates that are wanting to be agents, and I mean, before we get there, or when we get there, we have no idea. They hand us a notebook, and we just have to go through and ask, every. Understand the more corporate of a company you're going after, the more canned that interview is going to be, for the most part. Okay, interview attire. I mean, obviously, simple, clean, ironed, conservative. I mean, cover it all up. From a dress standpoint, you ought to be bringing out your best, because I'm thinking, okay, this is the best this person is ever going to dress for work, is on the interview. So you ain't looking very good. I'm thinking, what are they going to look like 2 months from now when things get relaxed? And that could be worrisome, because professionalism is very important. Okay, so even if you're casual, you can be casual and professional. So I mean, step it up. You can never be overdressed for an interview, but you can definitely be underdressed. Okay. So that's all. Y'all have any questions on interview attire? I mean, you can even ask, is it business, should I dress business or business casual? Like, there's nothing wrong with when they set the interview.
When you're talking about how important that is, within the first 3 seconds, you have a kind of an idea immediately which way you're going with that candidate just from their first initial impression of what they're wearing.
Yeah. And wear something you're comfortable in. I feel uncomfortable when I'm interviewing someone that I can tell feels uncomfortable with what they're wearing. If you're pulling, for the girls, like just pulling at it, or if you're a guy, I interviewed a guy once and he was just sweating profusely. Poor guy, and he wore like a light blue shirt. It's like, wear a dark color. I felt horrible for him. I wouldn't hold it against him, but like you're saying, it is hard. First impressions do, make an imprint in your mind of people. So just, keep, like I said, I just don't think you can overdress. You can always ask what's going to be appropriate, and just wear something comfortable, clean, make sure it's ironed. If you can't iron, take it to the dry cleaner, they can iron it for you. Or whatever it may be. During the interview, like I said, you're selling yourself. Be enthusiastic, ask a question, act interested, and you never want to leave an interview without asking for the job. Ask for the job. If you want the job, ask for it. When will you be deciding, I would love this opportunity? Why, maybe have in your interview prep a closing statement. A lot of times they'll be like, is there anything else you'd like to say? Or anything, especially on a formal interview. Know why you think you would be good at it. What is that job gonna do for you to impact your life, and how can what you do for that company impact that company? It works both ways, it's a two-sided thing, and you always want to do, the best you can, because wouldn't you rather be telling people no than nobody asking you to come and work for them? And then interview follow-up. This is where I'm always disappointed. I don't know why people don't seem to do this much anymore, but just send a thank you email the same day. Or like when you get in your car, just hop on your phone. Thank you, it was so nice. Thank you for your time. It means a lot.
See,
Little things like that, or send a nice thank you note.
Yeah, I heard someone else say to do that, and I never thought about doing that. Nobody's ever told me that that's good etiquette to do something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a good idea. I'll definitely be doing that.
I guess, the younger generation, if you want to send a text message, whatever, if you have the person's cell phone. And then, follow up.
I've been in meetings like this before, like 3 or 4 of them in high school, and whatever. And I've never heard that. I've never heard that.
Really?
Follow up, thank you, or whatever. Of course, follow up, to me, follow up is, when we have you, decided, or when will you be deciding, or you have any idea, when you'll be deciding on this position. That's the follow-up that I do. I've never been on that in my life. And like I said, I've sat
Good.
there 4 or 5 times like this before.
Yeah, so, and do what's you, if you text or however you've been communicating. And then, but with additional follow, there's nothing, hey, or if you made a decision, if you already, placed someone in that opportunity, I'd love to come in, or can we meet for coffee? I have a few questions. You always ask. Like I said, you can't, if it's a job you want, you just can't, show too much interest. Now, don't aggravate, just repeatedly. But if you've got, I'd love to meet you for coffee, for us to be able to spend more time together, hear more about, the job, or when are you making up, just checking in, if the position's filled.
Is it like dating rules?
That's exactly what I was thinking. You gotta be careful now.
You do have to be careful. You can turn someone
Be
off,
careful when you're invested
obviously.
after 2 years.
You can be too eager. Don't be off-putting, obviously. But, as far as, things like asking for the job, thanking them, telling them that you feel like you can be an asset for the organization, things like that. Tell them what's in it for me, what's in it for you. Questions? That's all prepared.
How important do you think it is for eye contact during the interview?
Oh, for sure. You need to, show confidence. I think that's what it is. Now, you're gonna be, if you're nervous. If you're a nervous person, you just are. I wouldn't say that that's gonna count against you. I would think anyone interviewing you is gonna take that into consideration. And, that may be, a part of your follow-up too. I'd love to meet in a more casual environment. I felt nervous. I'll just be honest with you. I was a little nervous in the interview. I'd love to, meet you for coffee or something like that. If you did have an experience like that, where you were nervous. But yeah, obviously, if you're, a one-on-one, you don't need to be looking at the ceiling.
What I did in my last interview was when I walked in, there was a couple people interviewing me, so I shook all their hands and made eye contact, and then before I left, at the very end, I did it again. I shook their hands and everything, so
Definitely.
I don't know if that helps a lot, but
Oh, for sure. And just like that, thank everybody. You only had one person's contact information. Please forward this on. It was, thank everybody for, spending the time today. Any other questions?
I read some junk about having sit up straight with your hands in your lap, because you don't pull your hands out until you're trying to make a point, because your hands are powerful in the interview. Yeah, you keep them lifted. It's like some garbage show. Yeah, because your hands are a power statement.
I can't help it. I'm a big time hand talker. So I said it runs my family.
Going back to creating your resume and everything, would you recommend websites like LinkedIn? Have you heard of LinkedIn.com?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Would you recommend that? Because I made my resume here a couple of days ago, because I started applying for jobs around here and everything. Where I applied, I'd make sure to link in my LinkedIn profile and everything.
Yes.
That would lead into basically everything, including your resume and a summary of yourself and different skill qualifications and everything. I just didn't know if you recommend that.
Yeah, LinkedIn, it's huge. Employers are just going after as many different avenues as possible to find people, whether, like I said, I use Career Plug that I think it posted on 4 different job sites, but LinkedIn, job fairs. I'm out there a lot of, a motive, and a lot of the networking that I do is I'm always trying to find that next person.
yeah, my fiance, once he meets people, he'll add them on LinkedIn, and then later on, I think he's actually got a job from somebody who he had worked with on LinkedIn that contacted him through there to go back to another job. So, I thought
Yeah,
that
if
was
you're
pretty
looking
good.
in a certain field, message or reach out to people through LinkedIn. People are really collecting that right now.
How would you approach, say you just got fired, someone got fired from the last job, how would you approach that if in an interview?
Yeah, well,
If you had to bring up like why you leave your last job and you don't want to lie to them, say, oh, we just this like, you know.
yeah, that's a tough one. I don't actually know the best
I don't know, look,
response to
I
that,
actually-
just to be honest.
I got fired and I tried to explain myself to my next employer,
Yeah,
and he told me that, he was very nice about it, but he told me he didn't want somebody coming in to be a problem bringer, that's what he called it. He said, you're making these excuses about it. He's like, you need to probably just own up to the fact that you were terminated from that job and go forward with that instead of trying to make excuses. That's how he dealt with it. And I was like, well, all right, kind of makes sense. Don't bring me your problems.
right.
Bring
It
me
does.
bring me your solution.
I mean, it's definitely gonna bring doubt in the mind of the employer, though, knowing, you know, your prior, you know, from an employer, if someone calls the past, you know, no one can actually disclose any of that information. You know, you can ask, would you, rehire the person? And it's pretty standard. If you say no, then there may have been something there. I mean, all you can do is just be honest.
I gave him direct manager's information. I told him I was fired and I gave him my direct manager's information. So he's not the one that fired me. I got fired by the upper manager.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, no matter what they say, the guy I actually worked for, this guy, he's gonna say the good thing.
I was just trying to bring up the point of the
Yeah.
conversation because I
I
actually
think it was
did.
something, I mean, if it's an integrity issue, you know, that could be tough, but I mean, if it's just for something, you know, like cutbacks or, you know, maybe you were taking too much time off, that could be a bad, indicator, but I guess if it was a certain thing, you could just address what has changed since then, that will no longer make that a problem. I think it'd be one way you approach it. Say this was an issue with my prior employer that we could not move past, but since then, you know, whether too much time with, you know, whatever it is, just say how you've addressed it.
Oh, I did that already. I was trying to bring it up.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Some of those
question.
good ones though, so that, I did that 'cause when I was single and everything, I went from Sonic to Happy, and I just said, yeah, I got fired from next door. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to, and I just came out honestly, that got me the job. They were like, I was like, I did really good there, just, you know, I had a little bit of discussions, some heated discussions with the manager there, and it didn't last. And she
Yeah.
just went with it. Just, you know, so.
Everything was fine to look at, but I learned how to overcome that problem.
Right, that's right. I won't get caught the next time.
Right.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, sitting here thinking about my resume, my job experience and like extracurricular activities, like they don't all go together, like they're all just all over the place. And sometimes when I go into interviews and people are looking at it, I feel like they're sitting there thinking, well, this person has no idea what they want to do with their life. So would you suggest like trying to, I don't know, make it more go together, or is it okay to have things that are just like all over the place? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just is what it is. I mean, you can always try to spin sort of whatever your responsibilities were to fit whatever type of job I think you're going for, to help. But is it just because of like being in school and, you know, just, and I think, I mean, and the employer is going to see that, you know, if it was time while you're in school that you probably just picked up a bunch of different jobs.
And you could totally come out, like, you know, the reason that everything is jumbled up like that and it just kind of looks a mess is because of school, and some might take that as, oh, well, at least she was putting forth the effort to be involved in all of it.
And that could be something like in that, you know, introductory sentence, I don't know what you actually call it, on the top of your resume, where you say, you know, your objective statement, you know, something about, you know, completing or, you know, approaching completion of my, you know, education and based on, you know, experience, this is what I'm looking for, or that could be something in your cover letter, you know, just explaining, you know, I do have a bad, you know, I feel like my resume expresses, the strong work ethic I have that I'm gonna carry forward now that I've completed my education, and, look for something in this certain field. And you can definitely spin that to be a positive, that you have all these different experiences and what you can pull from each one of them. But it definitely just shows, especially if you work the whole time you're in school. I mean, that's great work. Use that as your advantage. Don't ever use anything you've ever done as, well, that could be show something bad. Like always, and you know, that could be something you prepare for your interview. You know, to explain to them how hard you worked and the hours you spent and how now you're willing to put that into their company.
That's a good point. Anything negative, always put a positive spin on it. One of the worst interviews I ever did was right out of college, and I didn't research the company like you said, and they were going to hire me as a programmer, and so I did not research what language they used or anything, and I went in there, and at the time, Southern taught every class in a language called Pascal, okay? And I got to the interview, and everyone asked me, they said, you know, what language do you know? And I said, oh, I'm an expert in Pascal, I can do anything you want to. And the guy's like, no one in the real world is using that. And at that point, I was like, oh, you know, so I wasn't prepared, and I had nothing positive, you know. You always, if something's negative that they ask you don't know, always have something to come back, you know. But I'm working on such and such and such, you know, so don't leave it negative. You know, I left it negative, and it's kind of like, oh, I'm sorry for your time, and you know.
Or how quickly you caught on to that, so you know you're confident that, you know, whatever system they use, you'll be able to, you know, catch on as quickly. There's always a positive. Any life experience, you know, that's what I always say. People will ask me, you know, or about my engineering background, and you know, I'll obviously answer, I wish, you know, I probably could have taken an easier path to become an insurance agent, but that I did, you know, I every day pull so much from the experiences that I did have during that, you know, period of time, whether it's from school, you know, the work ethic piece, and just the whole mathematical, and being able to analyze my business, and then, you know, as far as professionally too, I mean, you're still working with people, you're still, you know, going out, especially in consulting, you know, trying to bring in projects, and, you know, going to project meetings and things like that. So, I mean, there's so many core basics that are, no matter what industry you're in, that you can pull from, no matter what your job experiences is, you'll be able to use that wherever you go.
Let's get ready.
Thank you.
We have a little thank you card here. It's got some little gas money that Erica helped us to find from our dues.
Thank y'all.
And this is the official PBL teddy bear. Nice, sharp business outfit.
Look at that.
Good job,
Pays small. Thank y'all. And you know, David's got my contact information, or you can just Google it. And you know, if you have any questions, I mean, I'm willing to be a resource for anybody when you're getting out there looking for that job. Just let me know.
Awesome.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.